There are many who believe that while India defeated Pakistan decisively on the military field during Operation Sindoor, the battle of narratives, the difference in the battle of narratives was not so stark. The statement of the CDS General Anil Chauhan on the sidelines of the Shangri-La dialogues has further added to the debate on perceptions and narratives in a democracy like India with its differing ideas and perceptions and expressions. To discuss this, I have with us Shri Vikram Sood, former chief of R&AW, and whose book, The Ultimate Goal, is a must read for anybody who wants to understand the battle of narratives. Welcome to Samvad, sir.
Thank you for having me back again.
Sir, in The Ultimate Goal, you write that narratives are not the truth. Rather, they nudge you to understand the truth in a particular manner. And then you go on to write that they are not neutral or innocent also. They're always strategic. Now, the CDS General Anil Chauhan, he was, while speaking to Bloomberg on the sidelines of the Shangri-La dialogue in Singapore, he responded to a question on the Indian jets being downed in during Operation Sindoor, because the whole Pakistani narrative, whole Western narrative seems to revolve around downing of the Indian aircraft jets rather than the whole strategic perspective. So he answered, and I'm quoting him, that I quote, "I think what is important is not the jet being down, but why they were being down." He went on to say that the good part is that we were able to understand the tactical mistake which we made, remedy it, rectify it, and then implement it again after 2 days, and flew all our jets again targeting at long range, quote, closed. Now, this has again raised questions, sir, as to after the initial ambiguity, even during the DGMO's press conference, this question was very explicitly raised but obfuscated. The answer was not given. So then many people say that this answer should have been given on the Indian soil. There's some say as to what strategic purpose has this statement helped for India? What has it done? Now, there are some who say that transparency is the best thing to go for rather than the fog of war. Pakistan, as usually, has added one more feather to its self-declared victory. Now, my question is, sir, how do you understand this statement as per your understanding of narrative, and how does it play out strategically?
Let me start with my book first. Just going back to it. The world believes that the Americans defeated the Germans in the Second World War. Actually, it was the Russians.
True.
They lost the maximum number of soldiers. It was they who pushed Hitler back. And the Americans landed much later. Okay? More troops were lost by the Allied forces and the Russians, much more than the Germans did. But they still won the war. Okay? So the statistics are relevant up to a point. It's the story you want to make after that. You're going into a boxing ring. You don't expect that you'll win the battle, the first knockout punch. It'll take time. It could take time. You could lose a round also and still win. Besides, you are fighting a professional army. You're bound to have losses. And therefore, I'm not surprised that there were losses. It also means that our forces were active enough to take the challenge. So it's unfortunate that you have lost aircraft, I don't know how many, but you have lost. And we lost soldiers in Kargil. We lost soldiers in 65. So it happens. This kind of thing happens in warfare. So let's not get too worried about this. It is sad, but let's not go overboard about this. Therefore, and I think if he had made the statement, sorry, I come back to the fog of war. The fog of war, the first victim is truth.
True.
Okay. Now, to be truthful in war, which is not we are not fighting a long war. Our intention never was to fight a long war. Our intention was to strike, restrike again if he hits back, and that's it. And that's what we did. Therefore, to give statements in the middle of all this 48-hour, 72-hour conflict, that, first day, we've lost 6 aircraft or 4 aircraft or 2 aircraft, sends an opposite message. At the press conference, I think the defense spokesman was very accurate. They said, well, it happens in war. So, as for declaring that statement or announcing it in Delhi first and then going to Singapore, I think it was a shrewd move to go to Singapore first, say what you want to say, and come back that this is the stated position. If you had done it here, you would have had our politicians going into somersaults and all sorts of और बताओ कितने मारे ये मारा वो मारा किसको मारा all that sort of thing would have happened, and that detracts from the mission you got a short mission. You're not fighting a total war, you're messaging. You're sending a message to them that your terrorism, this is the response we're going to give, and that is now the line we're going to take. We're going to hit hard. And that is the message. And the second message was that we do not any longer distinguish between terrorism and the state governance. They're the same. And that finally we can do it under a nuclear shadow. Don't worry. Every time they keep talking about nuclear, so you have. Then then whether they should have gone first and made their statements all over the West, or we should have gone later, it's debatable. They would have had to run. The chap who's hurt first will run first. The chap who's been hurt more will naturally run more. And Pakistan has always found more receptivity than us from the beginning. Always been a friend, an ally, a non-NATO ally of the Americans. They've been hand in glove on the Afghan war. And they each have something to give to the other. We don't have that arrangement or that understanding.
Sir, why has that happened, sir? That's very intriguing. It has always intrigued me.
No, it's natural. If you're willing to do the other man's bid, why would you not prefer him? You give them bases. You are a participant in the Cold War up to the collapse of the Soviet Union. Pakistan was with them. मुजाहिदीन कहाँ पे थे? पाकिस्तान से थे. इन्होंने ट्रेन किया उनको, CIA को मिल के साथ ट्रेन किया. तो that's a big gift that they gave. Osama bin Laden को संभाल के रखा till they found the need to get rid of him. So
at the right price.
These are IOUs they've got in the international sphere. The Pakistanis have collected these IOUs. Why do you think they gave them money straight away? IMF or World Bank, and I think ADB also has given money. It is to prop them up. Because if they have been seen to have been defeated this time again in 72 hours, what is their standing? What is their standing among their own people and with the world? So you will have stories which will be on their side. And I'm glad he did it to Bloomberg. Bloomberg is not particularly friendly to us. So the thing that they did with Bloomberg is the right thing. You're hitting the first person who is you're not looking for a person who's pro you. You're looking for a person who's inclined to oppose your stand and ask questions. So I think it was beautifully done. And we shouldn't feel scared or apprehensive. लड़ाई कर रहे हो तो फिर लड़ाई में तो होता है. Had it been a long war, had it been a war that Ukraine and Russia are fighting, then stories get even more fudged, and you know, you find it more difficult to unravel. अब ये जो कह रहे हैं कि drones ने उनके state of the art aircraft destroy कर दिए. Now the Russians are saying they were all dummies. They were not really aircraft. So these are things that happen in war. This real story will come up later. But the fact is, 11 air bases, radar facilities were hit. The Pakistan Air Force could not take off, and we had not crossed the boundary. So we have the capability. It's a demonstration of capability. It's a demonstration of courage. All good things. So I should feel happy but not smug.
True.
We've done it, and we hope we have learned the lesson. So let Bhutto and his colleagues go around talking in the world capitals. It doesn't matter. Look, they're only talking to USA, and I think maybe they'll go to UK or somewhere else. Look at our delegations all over the world.
All over the world.
All over the world. And we've sent some of our best people who can talk most eloquently from both sides of the fence of the corridor, and that's heartening to hear that. That on these issues, at least, we are together. Some of us are.
Sir, how good is this idea of sending the parliamentary delegation, sir? I mean, what effect does it have? Say, an Indian delegation goes to a country like Brazil or Japan, which is not very close to the battlefield, not exactly involved in anything to do with the battle. So, what message does this send out? How does it help India strategically?
I think as I said, that for a narrative to be acceptable, you must have a perception and an acceptability. Your thoughts should be acceptable to the person you're addressing it to. Otherwise, it's like an ad, or it's like a storyline. If I'm not interested, I'll switch it off. But if I've learned the story from somewhere else and I've been told that this is how it was and this is why it was and this is why it might happen again, so I might the next time be more understanding. Your narratives are not built overnight. It's not government propaganda that aapko apne dhol baja diya aur subah ho gaya sab. They're built over years. They like the perception that West is superior. How long has it lasted? Yeah. So it has been, now they're realizing, we are realizing that we also need our place in the sun. And we are capable of it. So these are also part of a mindset which says keep them down. Keep the Indians down. We made a mistake once with China. We won't let it happen with India.
So is that the reason why Secretary Lutnik, I believe that is his name, Trade Secretary or Commerce Secretary, something of that sort, saying that India got under the skin of America? So that was a very reprehensible statement. I mean,
these are very not an unhelpful, I think very crude remark.
Very crude, sir. So is that the reason? हाँ सर. तो इसका reason क्या है सर? ऐसे क्यों बोल रहे हैं? I mean, we are supposed to be a growing partnership between India and US, for instance, growing over the years, and suddenly this comes along.
Yeah, the partnership with America is always 75% theirs and 25% ours.
पर ये तो सर 25 भी नहीं देने को तैयार होने लगता है.
हाँ, वो भी नहीं देने को तैयार. They want everything themselves. Me first. Full stop. It's make America great, not bother about you and me. So if you are not useful, we're not deemed to be useful. So that's what you'll get. And
so
I mean,
Pakistan
they
is
take
useful, sir. Pakistan is useful.
Pakistan is useful. Pakistan is useful in many ways. Now that Pakistan is a useful, what's a peg on which to hold their policy to keep India down on one side. India is a useful
So
for China.
useful to the extent कि sir USC के chairmanship of some committees, sir, Taliban sanctions committee, anti-terrorism committee, that sort of committee, to make them the chairman or the vice chairman of those committees, sir, useful to that extent? I mean, it's very
Ah,
surprising for me.
no, it's par for the course. They're telling you this is how we'll treat you, and we don't care. So that's why we have to be careful. And they want us to buy arms from them. That's what Link, what's his name? Link, whatever, was saying.
Lutnik, sir.
Lutnik, all right, Lutnik, Sputnik, whatever. He was saying this, and but how many times have they not imposed sanctions on us? How many times have the Russians imposed any sanctions on us, or the French, or the Israelis? These are three main countries who give us, we deal with them, on armament, every kind. I think 35% Russia, 33 or 34% France, about 13-15% Israel. A total of about 85%. Baki chota mota hai. We're not buying everything from Russia. We are also diversifying. But then we have to be sure that when we need it most, the supply keeps coming. It doesn't mean that we should, when we need it most, you say no more spares. Why haven't they given us that engine all these years for our aircraft, for our fighter aircraft? Why?
Even some attack helicopters have not come in. Maybe the Apache or they have not come in.
Apache has, I believe so, yeah. They sign करके बैठ जाते हैं. And they've signed those various laws, agreements with them, which are not very favorable to us. That's my impression. I may be wrong there, but when I first read them many, many years ago, I thought they were not in our favor. They would leave them give them a lot of advantage in prying into our systems. But I don't know. I haven't seen the latest version, so I can't comment really. And that's how it is.
Sir, I'll come back to the topic, sir. We went on a more important topic, where narratives wala, sir. Ye Pakistan, you already spoke about that, but mera thoda uspe, I had a different question also, sir. Within 48 hours of this Pahalgam attack happening, the Pakistani cabinet ministers, 3 of them, were on Western TV channels. Bilawal Bhutto was on the Western TV channels, where the Indians were conspicuously absent during the initial days, sir. The diplomats came in, but much later when the operation had been launched. Sir, I found somehow, this is my impression, I might be wrong, sir, that we have reticence in our strategic culture. We do a lot of things, but those things are basically not going out to the people it should be reaching out to. So does this allow the adversary to seize an advantage against us in the initial phases, at least in the narrative front, at least on the propaganda front? Does it help us, this reticence?
It works both ways, Mayank. The fellow who's hurt and frightened more runs first.
True, sir.
Huh?
True.
The fellow who is quite confident of himself will take his time and go and explain a thing, not seeking assistance, just telling them what happened. They had gone looking for help. We're not asking for help, we're just telling you to understand the situation. And given our political scenario, I don't think talking too much here would have helped. You know what I mean?
I know, sir.
There were already negative opinions being thrown around about the whole thing from day one. How many killed, or what was it?
We
No,
basically
reducing that, maybe you lost the thing.
so that is what we are getting into. We have always gotten into this. This is how many killed, how many died, who's to blame,
Yeah.
who's not to blame.
Balakot also, we got lost there.
Hmm.
Balakot was not about casualties. Balakot was a message
Hmm.
that we can come and hit you. Ghar mein ghus ke marenge. That was the message. Even if you don't kill a person, a person. But here we go into statistics.
Hmm.
And then lose the government itself should not have bothered about statistics. This is our goal. We've done it.
सर पर कई बार एक जैसे परसेप्शन जो बिल्ड होने लगता है when this thing starts happening, sir, the discourse at times it seems that it is going away from terrorism, and the Pakistani are somehow, and we are restricted ourselves to Pakistan this time around. So the Pakistanis are able to sell that story की territorial aggression, sir, और वो एंटी टेरर वाला जो है सर, that somehow gets into the background, and that is why I was saying things about as to why are we not able to sell this story properly on the Western media. I mean, what stops us? I mean, are they not willing to buy our story, or are we unable to sell our story?
I think it's more a case of they're not willing to buy the story. They're just not willing to buy. They always want to twist it. Headline में कर देंगे twist, बाकी story अलग से हो जाएगी. And these newspapers are not read by most Americans. They're read by a certain section only, the ruling class. And in the ruling class, only those who are interested in this region would read it. So it forms an opinion in that sense. You have to somehow break into that. बहुत time लगेगा.
Sir, even the think tanks, sir, think tanks भी उनके, they think in a certain way only, and then these people graduate to the governments.
This is their revolving door. Undersecretary today, or whatever it is, assistant secretary today, think tank tomorrow, corporate sector day after, back to the government, or any other way. वही आदमी घूमता है,
वही रहता है.
So these are things that go round and round in circles, and you have to deal with that. That's their system of governance, of administration, of statecraft, dealing with the foreign countries. And we don't have that. We have silos. There's no interconnection, or very little. There's no movement lateral. No deputy secretary or joint secretary of the GOI will go into the corporate sector
and come back
and work for 3 years and then go into a think tank. And when the government changes, his government comes, he comes back to the government. We don't have that. The Americans have that system. रिपब्लिकन आ गया, जो डेमोक्रेट था उसका जो थिंक टैंक है वो छोड़ देगा, वो सरकार छोड़ देगा, वो थिंक टैंक में चला जाएगा, या he'll go into the corporate world and then wait. When the time comes, he'll come back. He may wait 8 years, he may wait 4 years. It depends how it works out. We don't have that at all. हमारा तो अगर आप, if you're a joint secretary or a deputy secretary, you behave like that throughout. वो flexibility नहीं है ना. Adaptability and flexibility of thought and process is not there. Either way, not blaming only the bureaucracy. We are like that. So I imagine in the corporate world. So I think it's a think tank world in India. We are still learning. हमको कितने साल हुए think tank बनाने? कब से बने हैं? 2000.
Sir, with regards to think tank, don't look very functional as it is, sir. I mean, I've not seen something coming out I'm not saying all and everybody, sir. Most of the think tanks. Oh, sir, nothing very constructive. आपको दिखता है सर इनमें से?
No, it takes time. Yeah, if the government pays attention to what is coming out, then it matters. हमने तो बना दी रिपोर्ट, हमने तो अपना एनालिसिस करके दे दिया. अब if you are not, if the government is not willing to think about it, talk about it, then that's it.
Sir, I'm
Then
saying
we
this.
say build a narrative. Governments can't build a narrative because they do only propaganda.
No, I'm
This has to be
saying this
private.
because sir, ऑपरेशन सिंदूर का जो पहली रिपोर्ट, जो सो कॉल्ड रिपोर्ट थी सर, वो it came out in Rusi with Christopher Clary writing a report, sir, and I believe most of us read that report. But I did not see that coming out of some Indian think tank, Indian journalists. We somehow seem to be lacking in that.
Yeah, maybe because they don't have what should I say? He doesn't owe anybody anything by if he's saying something wrong. He's talking about. He might not say that about Trump and Musk, but this is okay. I can talk any kind of thing about America fighting with Canada and get away with it.
Maybe, sir.
So, and that's more journalistic, I think. We report, comes out the next day, the day after, it's a journalistic report based on heard stories, not on true evidence, not on hard facts. वो तो बाद में आते, बहुत बाद में आते हैं. So we don't know if somebody has died, if we don't know yet. So,
सर, हम लोग इंडियन पॉलिटिशियंस की बात कर रहे थे. द पॉलिटिक्स इन इंडिया, नॉट द पॉलिटिशियंस. द पॉलिटिक्स की भी दिस फैसिनेशन फॉर स्टैटिस्टिक्स, नंबर्स, कितने प्लेन गिरे, कौन हारा, कौन जीता. हमारा एक गिर गया तो हम हार गए, उनके 10 गिरे, फर्क नहीं पड़ता. सर, हमारा एक कैसे गिरा? Somehow we have that understanding of war, maybe. Sir, so you always speak about this perception and narrative building, perception, information war. But how difficult it is this building narrative in a democracy with all its paraphernalia of free speech and expression and a politically surcharged atmosphere. In case a political leader comes out and says that we lost the war and we surrendered, despite the fact that evidence points to the contrary. So how does it basically impact narrative building exercise for any country? I'm talking of a democracy. How do the adversaries seize that opportunity?
I think the British and the Americans have had empires in the English-speaking world. For them, it was easy to build opinion in those days. In the absence of social media, 2000 TV channels, multilingual problem, they had none of those problems. So they were able to tell you, my friend, I'm better than you. I do things my way, and you'll be better off. I'm doing this for your good, etc., etc. For them, it was easy to build that base years ago. Until today, we always look for Western approval. Most of us look over our shoulder कि उसको कैसा लगेगा. उसने बोल दिया तो अच्छा है. We may have a very fine artist in India, but if he or she gets an award in some place in the West, suddenly that person becomes the best artist. We don't know how to do it ourselves to our own. So we have to learn that we are what we matter, how good we are. We should be proud of that and then talk on terms of equality with these people. And It's not going to be easy. 90% of their media channels in America are owned by 6 people, 6 corporations, 6 personalities. And we talk of free press. Similarly in Britain, on a similar pattern. तो जो free press का जो ढोंग है ना, it has to be taken with limitations, with that sense. Do we have that here? And do we have the system where they will then talk at least on foreign relations in one voice? I mean, we go outside and say all sorts of things about our own country. Maybe individuals do it, but then you have people who hold positions in the establishment, in the political establishment, to go outside and say all sorts of things. How does it look for the other man listening into you? He doesn't think you are. I mean, he's not impressed. How many Americans have come here to India and spoken ill about
no, sir. None.
their country? None. Nobody does it. हम करते हैं. तो नैरेटिव आपका जॉइंट होना चाहिए, तो आपका कैसे होगा? एक इंडिया का तो आइडिया एक होना चाहिए पापा.
True.
That Indian interests, national interests abroad are this. If you're not going to play ball in that, then you have more problem. It takes you longer, it takes you hard, it makes you work harder to achieve that. There you have the United States ready to help the Pakistanis. Pakistanis do this terror and then play the victim card and get their rewards. We give them a bloody nose, where do we go? Just stay around. So that's how the world is, and we are on our own at the end of the day. It'll take you time, अभी तो कितने सालों में आपने शुरू किया है? 20 साल, 10 साल?
10 साल, sir.
So how do you think we can win them over? They'll do what we request them to do or expect them to do. It won't happen easily. So लगे रहो.
सर बस एक लास्ट क्वेश्चन देंगे सर. बहुत समय, रनिंग शॉर्ट ऑफ टाइम, लिमिटेशन की सर हमेशा रहती है सर. आपकी बात सुनते समय तो टाइम निकल जाता है सर. Film industry is a very influential industry. So when something like Rafah happens, everybody has eyes on Rafah. But when Pahalgam happens, everybody is sleeping. So how does this impact this Indian narrative, sir? Time बहुत कम है sir. Very brief answer. I know it requires.
No, it depends, because they don't want to. They have. They don't want it to be. The Indian audience, they don't want to impress them or win them over. They think the Indian audience has already been won over, so why bother about that?
So whom are they impressing, sir, according to you?
I don't know that they cared about that. They're only interested in making money.
Because Hollywood is not going to accept them anyways. They have their own characters.
No, nobody else. Middle East में होगा और इंडिया में होगा. आपकी पिक्चर बिक गई, बस काम है, ठीक हो गया और सही हो गया, उसके बाद मारो गोली.
सर ये तो जो आपने कहा सर, वी आर ऑन आवर ओन, तो ये इट मेक्स इट वेरी डिफिकल्ट फॉर एनीबॉडी हु इज ट्राइंग टू डू दिस टू करेक्ट द नैरेटिव सर. उसके लिए तो बहुत डिफिकल्ट है.
टाइम लगेगा till we learn to think of ourselves as one unified whole, despite being different parties or regions or languages. India is I mean, you get glimpses of all this at times. That we are in it together. These opposition leaders from different parties went out and spoke for the country, which is good. But then this has to be sustained.
True.
This is not a one-off thing.
जी सर.
यहाँ 7 दिन 8 दिन में हुआ है, बोला है इसके बाद now we're going to take out the swords and do a sword fencing.
We have already taken out the swords, sir. The swords are
हाँ
already out. The swords
out?
are already out.
हाँ फिर कैसे चलेगा?
Even before the team could come back, the swords are out.
Brownie points, scoring points, political points. Looking at the next election, not looking at anything else.
True, sir.
Running down the very office you want to hold.
Yes, sir.
So how does it matter? How does it work?
We'll have to keep working, sir.
That's it. That's it.
We need guides like you, mentors like you, and we need to keep working. I mean, that is all people like us can do, sir. Nothing beyond that.
That's all we can. That's all we can do.
Thank you, sir. Sir, time is absolutely, we're running short of time, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. It's always such a pleasure and such a learning experience.
Thank you.
Sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you and Jai Hind, sir.
Bye.